Some people still think the Boston Bruins could make the playoffs, but after an ugly loss in Vegas, you can pretty much roulette out.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans? Happy Friday, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, March 21st, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Available on the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets right now if your first $5 bet wins. On today's podcast, we are going to discuss last night's loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, effectively, as if it wasn't already apparent, ending Boston's look to up in the standings. Now we're starting to look down and kind of losing on purpose and trying to get the best draft lottery odds we can out of this lost season. We'll also preview tomorrow night's game against the San Jose Sharks. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes, at Ian C. McLaren. Now, you may have noticed this note hanging behind me on the YouTube feed. A couple weeks ago, my niece handed me a note, and I at first thought it was going to say, "Uncle Ian, you're the best. You're so funny." But what it read is, "Boston Bruins poopy." And Boston Bruins actually crossed out. Now, we live in Southern Ontario, so obviously my niece, Clara, has been somewhat indoctrinated into Leafs fandom. But she's not wrong. The Boston Bruins are indeed poopy, and last night they were very poopy indeed. And might I argue, they're kind of poopy on purpose at the moment. Clara, very insightful hockey analysis. Come on the podcast one day and let's break it down. The Boston Bruins losing last night to the Vegas Golden Knights by a score of 5-1. Pavel Dorofeyev, who I just so happen to have on my keeper fantasy team. I'm fighting for 5th place at the moment, so that kind of helped, but just the Bruins are not a good team, and Vegas is. Vegas is now 40-20-8, and they treated the Bruins like a bottom tier team that they are. Now, Vegas was just like 1-2-2 over their past 5 games heading into this one. And they got that boost from Dorofeyev and head coach Bruce Cassidy, of course, I'm sure, didn't hate kind of hitting the Bruins when they're down. Just not a great game for the Boston Bruins at all. And interim head coach Joe Sacco afterwards said, "You're always frustrated when you lose. Doesn't matter what game it is. We knew coming into Vegas tonight it was going to be a challenge against a real good hockey team. They came in to play. Frustration can't set in. That's a bad thing. They need to keep digging," he said, "working hard and making sure that we're playing to that end." Now, the thing is, if you look again at the Boston Bruins lineup currently, it's not really built to win. You look at what Don Sweeney did at the trade deadline, shipping out Trent Frederick, Justin Brazeau, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Brandon Carlo. It's a pretty depleted roster, and you can make an argument that it is not at all optimized to win. Even after calling up Fabian Lysell, he still wasn't put in the lineup. You have Vinny Lettieri, Cole Koepke, Jacob Lauko, Patrick Brown in the lineup. Any one of those guys could have come out for Lysell. I think on the right side you had Lettieri, Lauko, Brown. Like any one of those guys could have come out, or you put Lysell in and bump everybody down in an attempt to generate some scoring. The Bruins right now are kind of, again, poopy, but poopy on purpose. Don Sweeney purposely looked at the state of things and said, this is a bit of a lost season, so we're going to subtract, try to bring some guys in who could make an impact, like your Casey Middlestats and your Hoosies. But at the same time, if you're going to be bad, you might as well be bad with a purpose. And it's not as if the Bruins aren't planning to be bad for extended periods of time. The hope is that this season, you look at everything that's gone wrong, and we'll, break this down in the postseason look back. But you look at everything that's gone wrong. You look at Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm out of the lineup right now. You look at the guys who have been subtracted, the leadership core gutted, guys trying to figure out the new hierarchy for this club. You look at the fact that you have some career AHLers in the lineup at the moment, and you think to yourself, the goal here right now is to be poopy on purpose and try to get the best possible draft pick. It's been a long time since the Bruins had, their first round pick. It's been a long time since they've had the opportunity to select a player in the top 10. They kind of wasted their last opportunity in Zach Hamill, but this is an opportunity for them to get a top 10 pick, a top 5 pick, maybe even a top 3, or if the balls bounce right, a first overall pick. And spend a lot of the money wisely over the summer, regroup, reset the lineup for next year, and hopefully be able to bounce back fairly quickly. That is the goal right now. So if you're looking at last night's game and thinking, oh, shoot, they didn't beat the Vegas Golden Knights, this team does not look very good right now. Well, that's kind of the point. Jeremy Swayman said, Vegas came in waves. They played well. It's a testament to their team. It's the Bruins' job to combat whatever they bring at them. He thought they did a good job of that, just didn't get the results. He said we can't let things snowball, worry about the past because we can't control it. That's a message that he hopes to get across to everyone here. They keep moving forward. Need to keep moving forward because that's all we can control, and keep pushing for that playoff spot. That's still the player's mindset. But let's be realistic here, Mr. Swayman. That's not happening. I think according to Money Puck this morning, they had a less than 1% chance of making the playoffs. We'll update that later on in the stats and signals portion of last night's recap. But all you need to know right now is that Vegas is a good team. They have legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations. The Boston Bruins do not. And therefore, last night's game pretty much was what we expected. If anybody's bummed that the Bruins did not win last night or upset that they didn't get the job done, I mean, there's nothing really to expect differently at this point in this particular season, at least. Now, if they're in the same position this time next year, that will be a problem. And that would put, ownership gave Cam Neely, Don Sweeney votes of confidence at this point in time. But if you bring in a new head coach, your third head coaching hire, if you spend some money, hopefully a bit more wisely than they did last summer, and benefit from getting a top pick in this year's draft, and you're still in this position next year, that's a problem. And that will put them firmly on the hot seat. But for now, for this particular season, we can let it slide. It's a lost season. Get the top or the highest draft pick possible at this point in time. All right, we'll look at some stats and signals to take away from last night's game against Vegas, and also preview the next game coming up for the Boston Bruins here as the podcast continues.
Did you know getting a good night's sleep is the number one recipe for long-term success in life? I didn't. It took me way longer to realize than I'd like to admit. It was years of tossing and turning. I was always tired. I never felt like I could live up to my potential, but not anymore. Thanks to Bear Mattress. I used their sleep quiz, and I matched with the Elite Hybrid. It's perfect for side sleepers like me. Now I wake up energized. I'm getting deeper sleeps, and I'm ready to attack the day. No matter how you sleep, Bare Mattress has a match for you with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. Go to baremattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's baremattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Baremattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, let's take a look at some stats and signals to take away from last night's game. David Pastrnak recorded his third consecutive season with 50 or more assists, joining Marc Savard and Brad Marchand as the only Bruins players in the past 30 years to do so. This is a part of David Pastrnak's game that I think he doesn't get enough credit for. We all know he's an elite goal scorer. We've seen him score bunches of goals in the past, but he's kind of leveled off a bit in terms of, he's still putting up big goal scoring numbers, but he's also become a pretty solid playmaker, and that's why we're seeing him reach up to the 100-point stratosphere that he has over the last little bit. It was Morgan Geekie who took a cross slot pass from Pastrnak in the left corner and scored with a snapshot below the right circle to end Aiden Hill's shutout attempt. David Pastrnak, he is now up to, and don't forget, he had a pretty slow start to the season. That's one of the reasons why the Bruins flailed a bit early on. He was below a point per game average. Now he's up to 84 points in 70 games. If he plays the remaining 12, he's got a good chance at reaching 100 points for the third straight season. 63 assists last season. He's got 50 this season. 3 more, and it will be his second most productive season in terms of assists. And that's pretty impressive considering the Bruins' lack of finishers in the lineup this year. And that's a big reason why Morgan Geekie is on the verge of his first 25-goal season. Pastrnak only at 34 goals, however, which would be, he's on track for his lowest goal total, since the shortened season back in 2021. He had 40 in 21-22 in 72 games. Still has a chance at that. He needs 6 goals in his next 12 games in order to hit that mark, and he's pretty much averaging a goal every other game here for the Bruins this season with 34 through 70 games. And that games played is a big reason why the Bruins are kind of on the outside looking in. We'll touch on that here in a moment. Last night, the Bruins continued their trend of being outshot and being outshot pretty big. They did not even reach the 20-shot mark. I think that's like the third or fourth game in a row that they failed to even hit 20 shots on goal. They were outshot 32-19 overall. Dorofeyev got the power play goal. So Vegas was 1 for 3 on the power play. The Bruins went 0 for 1 in their opportunities. They did dominate in the faceoff circle, but didn't really mean a lot because of the fact Vegas was just able to take advantage of Boston's ineptitude at the moment. Zacha, Geekie, Pastrnak with the points for the Bruins. That's pretty much the best and, dare I say, only line the Bruins have at the moment that we could see replicated in the future. Geekie leading the way with 5 shots on goal. When it comes to the overall standings now, the Bruins are much closer to the bottom than a playoff spot. They're currently 12th in the conference, 13th in the conference in terms of total points. They're below 500 now. They have the second or third worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference. again, much closer to the bottom than becoming a playoff team. They are 5 points behind the Montreal Canadiens with only 12 games remaining on the schedule and with 5 teams to jump if they have any hope of making the playoffs. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Buffalo, well, maybe. Buffalo has 3 games in hand, and they're 9 points back of the Bruins. If things really go off the rails for the Bruins, there's a chance they could finish 14th, 15th, maybe even 16th in the Eastern Conference. Now, the problem is, if you look over at the West, there are at least 3 teams that are much worse than the Bruins, namely the San Jose Sharks, Chicago Blackhawks, who have already been eliminated from the postseason. The Nashville Predators, also at 58 points. According to Money Puck this morning, the Bruins have a 0.5% chance of making the postseason. They have a 5.4% chance of getting the first overall pick in the NHL entry draft. I'm going to do a thing here on the podcast where we do the simulator for the Tankathon and see what it would take for our Bruins to get the number 1 overall pick. So we're going to run that here 5 times and see if the Bruins are able to get the number 1 overall pick. Let me just set that up here for you. Now, when it comes to signals to take away from last night's game, again, I would love to see Fabian Lysell finally making an appearance in the Bruins lineup. Perhaps they were wanting to shelter him from what would be a pretty tough, heavy game against Vegas, which indeed it did turn out to be. But I feel as though they might be more into deploying him against the San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks coming up here as the road trip continues. So we're going to sim the lottery here. You can see right now the Bruins have the 9th best odds of getting the first overall pick. And if we run the sim lottery once, we get the Bruins still in 9th place. Not great. Let's try that again. The Bruins still in 9th place. So in line to get the 9th overall pick, pretty much as it should be right now. We'll run it again. The Bruins sticking at number 9. There is some movement. You can see Anaheim jumping up big time to get the first overall pick. Philadelphia jumping up there. Chicago, San Jose, and Nashville rounding out the top 5. Those are your 3 bottom teams at the moment. Run it a couple more times here. Boston still in 9th. Sabres getting a little luck, moving up to the 2nd overall spot. Let's run it one more time here, and 9th. So you can see why it's kind of important for the Bruins to lose even more over the next 12 games. They have lost 4 in a row, 3-6-1 over their past 10 games. They only have a 5% chance of getting the first overall pick. And in order to improve those chances, they would need to lose a bunch more games here. So that's kind of the lay of the land here for the Boston Bruins when it comes to the playoff and draft lottery picture. Signals, I still like what I'm seeing from Huzi, from Middlestat. I think those were pretty good additions for the Bruins. Lauko as well, kind of playing above. A bunch of guys are playing above where you'd like to see them under normal circumstances, including Patrick Brown, Vinny Lettieri, who, with all due respect, probably wouldn't be on a playoff level NHL team at the moment. But some of these other guys would be. I'd like to see Lysell get it in some action here, especially tomorrow night against a very beatable, but do we want to beat San Jose? Could be advantageous not to. We'll preview that game here as the podcast continues. Daylight savings snuck up on us once again, didn't it? If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep still, I think I am. 5-hour energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, Bruins on the West Coast, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I was staying up late last night to watch the Bruins, keeping an eye on the NCAA bracket. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, so the Bruins continue this road trip Saturday night in San Jose. And while the Sharks are an incredibly beatable team, one of the worst in the league this season, as you can kind of tell from my tone and tenor here, we're leaning into Boston Bruins being poopy and trying to get as many lottery balls in our favor over the remaining 12 games. Meaning, if they lose, I'm kind of happy. This is an opportunity to get a top pick. We don't want the Bruins to be in this situation very often. And if they are again next season, I'll be really annoyed, disappointed, frustrated, and we'll be joining the, it's time to make a change at the management level. But for this season, you still have David Pastrnak. You still have Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm. You still have Jeremy Swayman. Hopefully he's a bit better next season. You still have that core to build around that should be competing for, good things, not top picks. But we have a 12-game window here 20-game window since, around the trade deadline, where the Bruins clearly out of it and should therefore be maximizing this down season by getting as high a pick as possible. And losing to San Jose would certainly help towards that end. Now, if you can believe it, San Jose has a better power play than the Bruins. They barely have a worse penalty kill. Boston's ranked 24th. San Jose's ranked 26th. The Bruins have the 27th ranked goals for per game. San Jose's at 30th. They also have the 32nd best ranked defense in the NHL, 3.68 goals allowed, 3.21 for the Bruins. So on paper, this is the game the Bruins probably should win. But sneakily, perhaps we want the poopiness to continue, and maybe they don't. San Jose is led by Macklin Celebrini in scoring. Again, the first overall pick just last season. They got Will Smith, who is top 5 in scoring for this team, a top pick a couple years ago. Who wouldn't want one of those guys in black and gold? And you get them by drafting high. The Bruins have an opportunity here to draft high. Celebrini leads the way with 4 points, 3 assists over the past 5 games. Colin Graff, who was a highly touted signing out of the NCAA last season, leading the team with 3 goals over the past 5 games. In net, they have Alexander Georgiev and Georgi Romanov. Very close to Georgi Georgiev in there, both with 875 save percentages. The Bruins, 896 for Swayman and Korpisalo. I mean, who knows? Korpisalo is the better goalie at this point, so maybe they go back to Swayman for the tankability factor. The Bruins lost 4 in a row. They're 3-6-1 over their past 10. Identical record to San Jose, who has lost 2 in a row. Their only win recently coming over Chicago, who was barely better. Now, this is a 10:30 p.m. Eastern start. I'm not going to lie. I probably will not stay up to watch the whole thing. If you do, you deserve some sort of award for sticking with the Boston Bruins through a 10:30 p.m. start against the San Jose Sharks. You're the real ones, and I commend you. Let me know if you're staying up to watch this whole thing so I can give you like a proper shout out on the podcast. I'm going to be down near Niagara this weekend as my son has 4 basketball games in Ontario Basketball League play. So that's going to be fun. Staying at Grandpa's house overnight. Looking forward to that. I'm hoping to catch the Severance season finale today. Again, Severance process for watching Bruins games down the stretch would be perfect. I also want to catch up on Yellow Jackets. Read some books, just living life, getting out there. It's going to be chilly. It's a bummer, but we press on here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me end today's podcast with a reminder about our Amazon bracket breakdown here on Locked On.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here on Monday's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.